We're now joined by Build One South Africa leader, Mmusi Maimane. Thanks so much for joining us. Unpack for us what you think needs to happen given the events that have taken place in the last day or so.
Good evening, and good evening to fellow South Africans. I think without trying to go through all the processes that have already been outlined, I think the people of South Africa, we now need to stand united and figure out a way forward as we go. And I think in practical steps, really, I think it would be untenable for the president to continue in that role without having this matter settled, simply because I think he would, as you know, he would not be able to table a State of the Nation address. He will not be able to address any of the issues. And therefore, my proposal is that we set up to a transitional government. You can elect someone of perhaps maybe the stature of someone like former President Kgalema Motlanthe to come and stabilize government. We prepare the country towards the elections in 2024 and focus on the business of the people. Free the president to be able to, if he wants to take the report on judicial review, or certainly ensure that institutions like this, the prosecuting authorities, are able to get to the bottom of this issue, that the president is freed up to do so, and that ultimately he is focused on being able to absolve his legal matters whilst the country itself deals with its own business. Whether or not he'll be eligible for the ANC's elective conference, that's a matter for the ANC to be involved in, but that's not a matter South Africans ought to be dragged into. What we need to be dragged into is ultimately being able to go, can we get a transitional government that will be stable, that will ensure that we're not spectators to factionalism, but instead we are focused on the business of keeping the lights on and providing jobs. I think that's the only way forward if we're going to keep the interest of South Africa at the forefront.
Why a transitional government? The party has a deputy, Didi Mabuza. Surely that's what happens when the president is unavailable, the deputy takes over.
Yeah, I'd given that particular matter some thought, because the person of Deputy President Didi Mabuza has been involved in many of the ANC's factional battles, which naturally means that he himself would then join the revolving door that is involved. And given that the ANC goes to an elective conference in 2 weeks' time, none of us could dismiss the fact that that would play straight into that. So that's why you need someone who has been in government. And the reason I go for someone like President Motlanthe is because he's a member of the ANC. And I think that I respect the fact that the ANC has got the elected mandate. But I do think it cannot be denied the fact that post-COVID, we need to get a government that has a fresh mandate for the people of South Africa. And I think this is not some way of trying to get it in. It's a way of saying to ourselves, we need to cleanse ourselves of an era where in the last 10, 15 years, all we've been speaking about is the state of corruption, whether it be Zondo, whether it be Nkandla, whether it be Phala Phala. And in fact, have not exercised the same amount of energy on issues such as the economy and the safety of the people of this country. So, and education naturally. So I do think the country has been distracted by these issues, and we need to actually get back to focusing.
The Democratic Alliance is calling for early elections. Is that something that you think might be a solution?
No, I think it's impractical for multiple reasons. One, there's an electoral bill that needs to be signed into law that will change how the elections are phased. Secondly, I think, our nation is already significantly distracted, that to add an election to that at a time such as this one will be hard. I think you can make sure that at the earliest possible date in 2024, you can put together an election, because at the same time as all of this, we don't want to go to a snap election and present the people the same options with the same people with same criminality, because what you are going to end up with is just a new mandate for the same criminals, and you could plunge the country into a longer crisis. I think you need to allow for even South Africans who share common vision to be able to prepare and participate in that election, bring on other players so that a much more stronger coalition that works in the interest of the country can then be available for electoral purposes. We're working hard to ensure that we participate in an election in 2024. So I think everybody needs the appropriate time to prepare for that elections, and citizens also need to be able to consider the matter in its fullest course.
Observers are saying that this process has been a good one for our democracy, that you have this panel of judges, that you have this report that's prepared, and that Parliament possibly will debate it. How significant has this process been, in your view?
I think, one of the greatest achievements of South Africa in the recent while is that we've had judges who have been able to stand up to very powerful people in this country. Whether it was Chief Justice Mogoeng in the judgment against President Zuma on the secret ballot matter, that was a moment. When you think about Judge Zondo being able to do his job in terms of the Zondo Commission, and now you're looking at retired judges who are able to stand up to the president. I think as South Africans, we don't often give ourselves credit that when we're confronted with a question of whether we'll stand up to constitutionality, that we rise to the occasion. This is not something that occurs in other countries. If I think about countries like Turkey and various parts of the world, where in fact those in executive office can use their powers to suppress judicial law, and in fact some of the countries in Africa have given us such good examples of how power abuses can occur. So I think that must be celebrated by South Africa. What is of great concern is that Parliament, whilst having written the rules around how we undergo an impeachment process, Parliament is no longer a legislature that in fact passes laws easily. It has become a place where without doubt it is a political stage. So to my point earlier, if people arrive there, they are not there to seek out how the best laws, how to follow the impeachment process. It will be political theater. It will be a space upon which people will feel they need to score political points. And I think it speaks to our broader democratic issue in that we're happy to play the man and sometimes forget that there are very serious issues that need proper governance. So I think the ANC's plunged us into crisis, and this matter is not just a referendum on the president. It is an absolute referendum on the ANC.
Build One South Africa leader, Mmusi Maimane, thank you so much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us on the programme.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. All right, that's the leader of Build One South Africa, Mmusi Maimane, saying that he suggests that a transitional government, possibly led by former President Motlanthe, should take over and take us through to the elections. So we'll have to wait and see. Of all the ideas that are being proffered, which ones will get the nod eventually? But all of this, of course, depending on the decisions that the president makes.